Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming back to Almost Game Day. As you know, I'm your host, Sean Green, on this September 11th, 2020. And finally, after months and months of waiting and yearning for some football, we got it. So let's jump right into it. Last night, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans kicked off the NFL 2020 season. And to be completely honest with you, it looked about how everybody expected. Patrick Mahomes still looks like Patrick Mahomes. The Kansas City Chiefs still look like that explosive offense. But the one takeaway that I looked at that game and said, wow, I wasn't expecting that, was the Kansas City Chiefs defense. Now, granted, again, it's week one. I don't want to take too much away from it because, again, they are playing the Houston Texans, and I'll get into them in a second. But that Kansas City Chiefs defense usually is notoriously known for being not as productive as many defenses in the league. They're in the bottom half of defenses almost every year. Spagnuolo with the Chiefs has always been that type of guy that usually plays that zone defense and teams pick it apart. But the Chiefs were doing a lot of switching up. They were going man to zone. They would sometimes blitz the quarterback, and Deshaun Watson had to get out of the pocket. So I think the Chiefs defense, if they can play like that for the season, all bets are off. It's a scary thing, and I'll go into my predictions in a second. But with the Chiefs be doing that, with the Chiefs having that good of an offense, and then a defense that can keep Deshaun Watson to 20 points, that's pretty impressive. Now everybody's talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think everybody had a feeling he was going to have a successful time with the Chiefs, a good first game, and obviously he did. Came out 25 carries, 138 yards, 1 TD. That's pretty impressive. But I think you saw how they used Kareem Hunt, and you saw how they used their running backs. And the way they use their running backs is ground and pound the ball, throw it to him in the backfield, and let him do this thing. Now, granted, he didn't catch one ball out of the backfield. That's what's impressive to me. He literally was just there running back and then ran the ball. Darrell Williams had 2 receptions for 7 yards. But, again, they use their running backs usually in the passing game, and they didn't do that. So I think that's pretty impressive. And he's a scary back. He's a guy that does not go down on first contact. He keeps going after 1, 2, 3 trying to people hit him. So I think it's a scary duo. The Chiefs are a scary, scary team. And if their defense, like I said, if their defense can play like that, forget, they probably will win the Super Bowl this year. That's too good of an offense to not even be in the conversation. And then if you have a defense like that, just forget. All bets are off. Now let's go into the Texans. Okay, everybody saw that the Texans would probably lose this game, right? It's Chiefs opener. The Chiefs are really good on offense. The Texans defense, again, they've just never been consistent. They've always looked a little sluggish. When they had J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney, they looked like more a consistent team. But now they're very lackluster. Now you look at the offense without DeAndre Hopkins, and boy, can you see how important this guy was to that offense. Wow. It was actually terrible watching that offense run and being like, okay, great. Will Fuller played amazing. 8 receptions, 112 yards. But I think everybody had the same thought after that game. Like, it was such a quiet 8 receptions for 112 yards because you just didn't feel like there was any movement on the offensive side of the ball. I saw, and I think a lot of people saw, the one bright spot was David Johnson. Used to be top 5 running back, comes to Houston in the trade with DeAndre Hopkins. He looked like he was finding holes everywhere. But you only gave him the ball 11 times. Granted, that is probably because you were down so big for the entire game and you had to, start throwing the ball. But I think if the Texans, this has to be a totally different Texans team. If the Texans have a shot at making it to the playoffs, they need to run the ball. This is not going to be a Deshaun Watson throw to these receivers and hope to God that they can win. Brandon Cooks 2 receptions for 20 yards. I get he's a little hurt. But that's your big receiver to take over for DeAndre Hopkins. And he did nothing. Will Fuller was your guy. Your next closest guy to Will Fuller was Jordan Akins, former UCF player. 2 receptions, 39 yards. That's not good. I'm looking at these names. Randall Cobb, 2 receptions, 23 yards. Kenny Stills did not catch 1 ball last night. This is scary for the Texans. And Texans fans, I'm sorry, but your offense is what's going to be your downfall. I was actually very impressed with the defense of the Texans. Granted, the second quarter was a little off. You allowed 17 points, but it's very easy to allow 17 points when you have like Patrick Mahomes on the other side. But holding Kansas City to 34 is no small feat. That's actually a very good. You have a chance to win if Kansas City scores 34. But that means your offense needs to keep it up. I think it was very impressive. The goal line stands on like the 1 yard line with the Texans, especially at the end of the game. They held their ground. They stayed consistent. So the defense will be fine, which that's one of the things I was concerned about going in. Because the defense, I don't think, is very deep, especially on D line. You have J.J. Watt, but you look at other people and you're like, okay, I don't know if you're very deep. Especially the corners. Vernon Hargreaves, like the Texans defense, they just seem like they have a chip, and that helps. 34 points, again, it's a little much, but for the Chiefs, that's a good point. You know, that 34 points is good. You can win against the Chiefs with that. But you won't win if your offensive is putting up 20 points. I think Bill O'Brien really screwed up. I get the cap space. I get trading DeAndre Hopkins because you need the cap space. But I think the Texans are in a bit of trouble when it comes to scoring the football. You paid Deshaun Watson, but this is not good. It's not good for the Texans. All right, when we come back, Mike Golic Jr. joins me here on Almost Game Day for a long interview, so please stay tuned for that. We talk about a bunch of things. We talk about his Super Bowl prediction. We talk about his new show on ESPN Radio and just so many other topics. So come on back. Make sure you guys tune in on Monday for Hitting the Field, the flagship show, the one that started it all with host Jarrett Kappelman. They're going to go into some football. They're going to talk some NBA. And he's even going to give his own thoughts on topics in the sports world. So make sure you tune in Mondays only on Hitting the Field Network. I have a very special guest, Mr. Mike Golic Jr. Let me tell you, this is one of the nicest guys I have met so far in this industry. So thank you so much for coming and talking to me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, listen, smart move. I am not immune to flattery, so buttering me up on the way in is the absolute right way to do this. You're learning already.
That was the goal. I had it in my notes. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is your new show. Chiney and Golic Jr. airs weekdays from 4 to 7. I really want to emphasize to people, if they have not listened to you guys, it is a show that you need to listen to. It's a must watch, a must listen. You guys seem like you have such great chemistry that it makes it a really fun listen. So how has it been to get started on this new show and this new venture for you?
It's been really good so far. And yeah, I've been fortunate. It's one of these where coming off of doing a morning show with my dad for the last 3 years, it's hard to, especially someone who you had 30 years of chemistry with, the way I did with my dad. But for Chiney, who I've known for the last few years, she was a part of coming around on Golic and Wingo as an analyst, helping us break down the NBA. She worked with me on First and Last when I was on from 4 to 6 in the morning for the couple of years prior to that, and just getting to know her around there. She's a couple of years younger than me, so we're similar ages, a lot of similar interests, and going into a new show with that friendship as the backdrop for it, you're right, has made the transition a lot better than it could have been otherwise, and has really helped us. I mean, we go into every show just trying to have as much fun as possible, and we know, because of both of our backgrounds, playing high-level college sports, in her case, still being a professional player in the WNBA, we're going to have the sports stuff covered, and that stuff's going to be great, especially as sports continue to come back. But we just want to make sure we're having as much fun as possible, that the people listening are having as much fun as possible, and hopefully that jumps out early on here.
Yeah, I think finding that chemistry, I think nobody really knows that behind the scenes, is finding that chemistry with a co-host. So How has it been like for you two to really come together in a short amount of time to get this show really up and running and have your guys' communication together?
Yeah, I have to give a shout out to our staff on that too. And we have a lot of people that came over from the morning show that I've been working on. So a young staff, a lot of people that I know really well and that have helped make that work, because Chanae's doing her leg of the show from Los Angeles. We're spread apart, and because of quarantine, we can't get out and do shows together, even in the early going, like we'd want to at this point. And so it's been a lot of over communicating that we have to do behind the scenes with our staff, with the producers, everyone involved on the technical side of things, with the television portion of it. And so it like all things that tend to happen in this industry, it really does take a village to make sure that we get on air and that we're able to do the easy parts. You know, we have so many people that do that heavy lifting, so that when we get on air, it can just be a conversation. As long as we keep it like that and make sure that just having that natural conversation between two friends that happen to have cool backgrounds in sports, the rest of it will take care of itself. And so that part's been really good in the beginning, because we have a lot of people working really hard on it.
Now, like you say, you were on Golic and Wingo, it was a kind of unique situation. I was trying to think about situations that were similar to it, where you have a guy that's been doing this for 20 plus years at a network, and then his son goes on the same show, and now his son kind of takes over. So I really want to get a feel for how you feel during this time, especially now kind of going out on your own and doing your own thing, and how you switch that mindset from now your dad not being and doing radio anymore.
Yeah, I think I'm still kind of working on that, if I'm being honest, right? Like all the things that I'm going through now, I'm as prepared as I am for them because of my dad, because not only working with him for the past 3 years and everything I gleaned in that process, but watching for the 20 years prior to that. I mean, Dad was part of one of the biggest morning radio shows, probably the biggest morning sports talk radio show in the history of the medium. And so watching the way that he not only went about his business every day and all those little habits, but also being someone that was the leader of that show unit, a leader and a face of ESPN, and all the ways that he handled that on the biggest stage. Now, as I just get ready to try and, in my own space here, just have to help lead a show unit with Chanae for the first time and with our staff, I think seeing the way that he moved and navigated all of those situations in the past is just as helpful at this point. And so I get to do and feel as comfortable as I do now going through this process for the first time, because I got to see so many of those reps and get those mental reps watching the way Dad went about it for so many years.
And, it shows. Honestly, every time I listen to you, you really sound like you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about. I think those mental reps do help, especially with people I listen to constantly. Listening to you, listening to a guy that I work for, it's very natural when you listen to somebody for so long to pick up those mental cues about how you're talking and how you react to those situations. I want to talk about the viral video that, happened a couple months ago, your dad's last show on Golic and Wingo. And honestly, man, I got teary-eyed. I got emotional watching you speak. It was very unique and very fun, and to watch, emotions actually come out. Because I think on those shows, you talk about sports all the time, but you don't really talk about the person's actual personal life, getting brought into it. So you said you were getting really emotional. You said, I'm my mother's son, and I can relate to that. I don't think a lot of people talk about your mother that much. Every time when they talk to you, they talk about your dad. So how has she influenced you in your life?
Yeah, what's funny is for how similar my dad and I are personality-wise, and then again, everyone who's ever listened or watched the show can certainly pick up on a lot of that. Me and my mom have the same brain. Like it has always been that way. And when my dad was younger, he was at work early in the morning doing the show, and he would have to stay late a lot of times doing NFL Live. And so my mom was taking us to and from school, to and from practice a lot of times in these situations. And we spent a lot of time around one another. And through those conversations and just over the years, I've always been really like-minded with my mom, but also someone who is steadfast in her opinion, who's got a ton of her own life experiences, and who has so much useful advice. I mean, I am so much of both of my parents because of the time I've gotten to spend with each. My mom's the rock of our family. She makes everything go. She always has, and she always will. My dad would be the first one to tell you that. And so getting to have her on set for that last show, because she had been really present through the course of that. Michael, my dad started, he always said was going to be a show about our family as much as anything. And the things that happened were going to get talked about. And so we were all players and characters in that for the longest time. And getting to end it with everybody on the set there and with my mom, who I don't know if anyone has watched, listened to, or overall consumed more ESPN and ESPN radio programming than my mom. I always joke she's the best field producer that we have because she's always looking, listening, and seeing things that other people might miss and making sure to put them in front of us. And with her own, I mean, she's such a big personality in her own right and such a unique perspective that may not get a platform on a microphone every day, but that we talk to are influenced by so much behind the scenes that I think, the story of all of my dad's success is just as much of a story of my mom being the foundation for our whole family.
And you could see, like, all of you were getting so emotional, and it was really good to see. I'm glad that so many people got to see that moment, and it was really inspiring to see. So, Mike, I know this following this, you're going to call a Thursday night college football game, or in the coming weeks you are?
Yeah, so I'm fortunate this year to be on our Thursday night crew. It's myself and Matt Berry, who's going to be the play-by-play for that, who everyone can see all over SportsCenter. And we actually got to be on the call the first college football game of the season. It was at the FCS Kickoff Classic. It was Austin Peay and Central Arkansas. And so we got to be on the call for that. We're still waiting for our next assignment here, but we're going to be the Thursday night package as the season starts going forward. And really fired up about that. That's something that since I've come to ESPN, I didn't play, in the NFL. Went to a few training camps. My bread and butter was college football. It's one of the things that I love so much. And I've really tried to keep pushing to be a part of our college football coverage, and to have that opportunity to do it in the game day booth now is something that's such a special honor for me, knowing we have the chance to tell these athlete stories. I've been in these guys' shoes. I know what they're going through, and I think a chance to showcase all of those and to get to do it in front of a live event after the off season that we've been through is I think an opportunity I'm especially thankful for because of those circumstances.
Well, how do you prepare yourself? I mean, it's a little bit different. It's a lot different from radio where you're just talking about a bunch of different topics. How do you prepare yourself to go into one game and talking about a bunch of different things in such, a short amount of time?
Yeah, I think they're very different, but they're all different, but they're also similar in a certain way. Radio, you can go in with a plan. You can have these conversations beforehand and kind of flesh out where you want to go in all these things. But the conversation ultimately might meander, and the best shows are ones that sort of organically find the thing that they're going to be most interested in over the course of the show. And with football and preparing for calling a game, it's pretty similar in the fact that you have to prepare with as much information as you need to feel comfortable for a variety of different things that might come up, and you might use 25% of it because it's a live event. It's a living, breathing thing, and the action on the field is ultimately going to dictate that. We can have stories ready that we want to tell, interesting players with backgrounds that we want to make sure that we share because it's that compelling. But at the end of the day, the quality of the game and what happens on the field is going to end up driving a lot of that conversation. And so for me, getting ready for a game is a lot like when I was getting ready to play in a game. The way you scout it, the way you go about preparing in the week, talking to coaches about game plans, trying to get those bits of information, looking back on film to try and find tells and things along the way that you can use to explain and teach as it happens and goes forward on the field. And so I think both of them, you've kind of got to be ready and be on your toes the same way you would in radio. But with an event, you're trying to prepare for so much. And then it is always that job well done feeling of knowing I had pages and pages of notes. I mean, I think for my first game, I had like 19 pages of notes that were typed up. And you maybe get to a quarter of it and you get to happily throw the rest away because you understand it's not about you or the thing that you feel is important or compelling. It's about what these players are doing, what these coaches are calling, and what ultimately happens on the field.
See, I bet it's not as exciting as calling the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. I just don't see how calling college football is not as exciting as a hot dog eating contest.
I was amazed, man, calling that. Because that was the first live event I had gotten to be around since everything happened with the pandemic and the shutdown. And even though it was inside as opposed to the corner of Surf and Stillwell where there's 10,000 people and it's a hot July afternoon, it was inside. It was a much more sterile environment, and my heart was still beating out of my chest in the final minutes of both of those calls. And I was looking around at everyone. I was like, it gets better than this? And they're like, dude, just wait until next year when you're out there and you get the full brunt of this experience. So it really was. And I mean, for something I'd grown up watching, everyone kind of joked like you've reached the pinnacle. And I was like, no, I'm kind of serious, guys. Like, this is sort of the tops for me here.
Oh, especially on July 4th. Everybody's watching you. Everybody's hearing your voice call it. So hopefully next year you get that opportunity too, especially with a bunch more people in the audience, hopefully next year. But one question I do want to have about college football is, the Big Ten, obviously, there's been just massive craziness going on with that conference. And there's rumors that it's going to start in October, mid to late October. We don't know for sure. But a lot of the conferences that have said they're going to play, like the AAC, have kind of been confused because if, say, UCF plays 9 games and a team like Michigan plays 5, how do you think the College Football Committee will handle that situation going forward? Like, I think it'd be very weird, and I understand the Big Ten Conference is one of the top 5 conferences, but I find it very hard to believe that they're going to put Michigan ahead of UCF if they played 4 more games. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of complications that make me less inclined to believe that Big Ten football will be able to pick up in the amount of time it would take. You're right, to get a number of games that would make the committee comfortable doing something like that. Because let's be real, especially going into this year, that's all eyes on Ohio State. They're expected to be one of the best teams, if not the best team in the country if they were on the field. And how many games would it take? This conversation that we have every year, best versus most qualified, however you want to go about breaking that down. And Lord knows the metrics that the committee chooses to lean on kind of shift every year depending on who's in that room. I ultimately think if you're not starting the season at the same time or within a couple of games there, it should kind of be kept separate in this one. And the teams that are playing that 9 through 11 game schedule, the way most of the conferences starting on time are looking to play, should be the ones considered. And for me, it leaves it open for what I think is the most fun possibility of this season, which is teams recklessly claiming championships again in the world of college football. Before we had the BCS, and even when we did have the BCS playoffs, there were teams doing that not all that long ago where they'll look back and find their number 1 ranking in some poll and use that as a justification to say they're the national champion. So I look forward to that because I'm a bit of an anarchist, but in all seriousness, I think that the college football playoff, whatever it looks like this year, it would be tempting, especially if Ohio State were to go out and be as dominant as most people expect them to be. But I think all things considered, considering the amount of hair splitting that tends to go on over things like Notre Dame not normally being in a conference and not playing in a conference championship game, but still getting in, the process of getting 2 teams in from a conference like the SEC, given how close some of these things can draw, I think ultimately losing 4 or 5 games compared to the other conferences starting on time would make it pretty difficult to put any of those Big Ten or potential Pac-12 schools into the mix.
Well, you said schools claiming championships. I think this is the perfect year for UCF to claim a second national title. Don't you agree, to get into the college football playoff?
Listen, they're the exact ones I thought of in all this. Like UCF tried to claim a title during a season where we actually played a full one out and had the national championship through the course of the playoff. So you're going to tell me now we're going to mix and match and kind of grab bag football seasons whenever people feel like playing them? That to me smells like what I said exactly when March Madness shut down this year too, which is if you were a team within shouting distance of a number 1 ranking, go ahead and raise the banner, because who's going to stop you? It's like when I try and revisit games that never got played back in the day. We played Alabama in the national championship. Had Kansas State just beaten Baylor in a game they should have won, we'd have played them, and I firmly believe we'd have won. And I get to talk about how badly I think we would have beaten Kansas State all the time, because that game's never going to get played. It is the easiest game to brag on, so I encourage more people to do it.
Yeah, it's easy to talk about. It is. Hopefully we see that. Like, I would love to see a team that usually doesn't make that top 4 have a run at it. But moving from college football to the NFL, I just want to ask a couple predictions, couple quick questions to get your take on it with the NFL starting this week. Number 1, the Patriots. How do you think that's going to work? How do you think Cam's going to fit in that system? Do you think they're going to be a similar team?
Honestly, I think it's going to be a completely new looking system. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things that you're going to do with Cam that are emblematic of that offense, and really more the personnel than anything, right? Like, you're still looking to grow that young receiving core there. We know Julian Edelman's the elder statesman, but N'Keal Harry, the rest of your guys you're trying to plug in around there. And we know the Mohamed Sanu experiment that didn't work out in the way that it usually does for the Patriot things. Combine that with the amount of bodies that they lost to the people opting out because of COVID-19. And I just don't think there's enough talent and personnel on this team for them to necessarily be a big-time player. Now, because they're in the AFC East, they're going to have a shot. And if Buffalo doesn't get the kind of progress from Josh Allen that the rest of that roster, quite frankly, deserves, because it's a Super Bowl looking roster from the rest of that team in Buffalo, New England could still have a chance to sneak into the playoffs, but I still see this being probably an 8-win football team in New England. It's going to look different. It's going to be exciting because Cam and that offense can do different things with his body, with what he's able to do on a football field. But I just think because of what you lost, I mean, your linebacking core in New England had a nickname. They were so good last year, like the boogeymen that we saw are all gone. Every single one of them is gone in this. And now I understand Stephon Gilmore and that secondary are still riding out there. And that was ultimately the strength of your team. But I just don't think in a league where already the talent gap is so minimal, you can lose that much, even in a place like New England, and still expect to improve on what you had last year.
No, it'll be interesting. I think the one comment that everybody's kind of intrigued by is when I think Mike Reese asked Cam, how the offense is going to look. Cam had like a big smirk on his face, like the Patriots were working something up in that playbook to completely flip things on its head. So I think the game against the Dolphins, we're going to see something completely new that it's going to catch some people a little off guard a little bit.
I hope so, and I hope Cam is healthy enough to do all that. Like, the NFL deserves a healthy Cam Newton. What we saw at the beginning of 2018, people have been over it a million times. It was exceptional football and some of the best he'd ever played. And so I hope we've seen him extra motivated because of what happened and how things ended in Carolina. I hope he stays healthy enough long enough for us to see the best version of Cam Newton, because it's one of the best players I've ever seen.
It should be fun. Do you think the Bucs win the NFC South?
No, I think they make the playoffs, but I ultimately think the Saints bring back too much to lose the South at this point. Like, we there's a lot of sexy signings that come out here. Gronk coming out of retirement, Leonard Fournette getting attached to that side. Everyone knows what Todd Bowles was able to do with that defense last year. The New Orleans Saints are still, I think on paper, the more talented team overall, a team that is rock solid up front on both sides of the ball, certainly did nothing to really diminish that this offseason. They had the benefit of being able to build on strengths. They added a big-time third down helper in Emmanuel Sanders from San Francisco that, if he can stay healthy, takes a passing game that basically was throwing the ball to one dude and still balling in the NFL, and all of a sudden elevates it. I just think, especially in this year, weird offseason, not a lot of time under task on the field together, the Saints and the benefit of all that experience and continuity give them just enough of an edge. And that's all you need right now in today's NFL, is just enough of an edge for them. But I think especially expanded playoffs, Tampa Bay is going to be in the playoffs. Tampa Bay is going to be a factor. And then once you get there, you've got, the greatest quarterback of all time, who has been through plenty of those situations. And in the last few years has done it with a lot less talent than he's got on the field right now.
At least people admit he's the GOAT. A couple of years ago, people couldn't even admit that. So at least that's a thing.
Hey, man, let Bill Belichick win 2 games with Cam Newton and Tampa Bay go 1-1 in that same time period, and watch all those takes start to come back out.
That's going to be fun. Don't worry. You'll be talking about it on your show. Just you wait. That's going to be a good talking point.
You know it.
What's a dark horse team that you think might make the playoffs this year? Again, a crazy year, so anything can happen, but who do you think is like a dark horse team?
Yeah, and I don't think I'm first to market on this by any means, but I think we've had enough take cycles go through this offseason where people maybe forgot. Like, the Arizona Cardinals are going to be fascinating this year, because you need a lot of improvement from your offensive line to protect Kyler Murray in the ways that your young quarterback needs to grow. But I thought you built this team in the right way to begin with, meaning when you brought Cliff Kingsbury in, and a lot of people weren't too bullish on that hire because of his tenure at Texas Tech, you at least afforded him the opportunity, what so many people mess up, get your timeline with quarterback and coach right. You had just taken Josh Rosen in the first round the year before, but if you thought Kyler was going to be good enough to warrant fitting in Cliff Kingsbury's offense and being enough to go back-to-back #1 picks with a quarterback, they went ahead and did it. They did that. They somehow were the beneficiary of one of the strangest moves I've ever seen in letting DeAndre Hopkins find his way over there to a receiving core that already had Christian Kirk, who was starting to come along, and we know the aging future Hall of Famer and Larry Fitzgerald. Now on the defensive side of the ball, you just paid Budda Baker a ton of money in a secondary that's largely Washington-based former Huskies, and added Isaiah Simmons to that, who, I understand Chase Young was the best defensive player, but Isaiah Simmons, the most versatile, a guy that did so much in Brent Venables' defense there. Combine that with Chandler Jones, who just year after year continues to produce and is the most underrated defensive player in the NFL, so much that we're probably properly rating him now. I just think all of the things that are starting to meld there in a year where you're going to have an extra team making the playoffs on both sides makes them a really interesting look. Like, all of the trends for Kyler Murray and going into the second year, getting an added weapon like that, I think help the development in ways that will be interesting to see. Now, the outlier in this is they play in the absolute biggest Thunderdome division in football in the NFC West this year, where you're staring up against the team that represented the NFC in the Super Bowl and the 49ers, and a team that's got Russell Wilson at quarterback, who's going to will them to victory despite how much Brian Schottenheimer wants to run the ball on first down. So I think the Cardinals are interesting. I expect them to make the playoffs. The Rams are also in that division. A lot of people think a bounce back year for Sean McVay is coming, and it's probably bad to count out a team that's got Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey as its defensive foundation. But if I'm going to go wild on anyone, it'll probably be the Cardinals.
So you mentioned Arizona. So between DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald, who's Scottie Pippen between them two?
Man, listen, at this point, if you're lining up on a field with DeAndre Hopkins, you're probably Pippen on this one.
That's what I feel like, right? That's what I feel like the common answer is going to be this season.
DeAndre Hopkins has been one of the best, if not the best receiver in football, and he was doing it when he was getting like the round robin of quarterbacks that used to go through in Houston before he had the steady arm of Deshaun Watson. So that guy deserves some consistency and quality at quarterback, and he's going to get it again like he had with Deshaun the last few years.
Yeah, there's no question. That offense is going to be a killer. Last question. I know it's early, but I want to be able to talk to you in the future once a bunch of games have been played. Who's your Super Bowl prediction right now? Obviously, I know it's really early, but who are two teams that you think could easily be in the Super Bowl come February?
Man, how am I supposed to pick against Kansas City? You can't bring back that many starters on a year where we've got a shortened off season with the best quarterback in football, maybe the best player in North American sports in Patrick Mahomes right now. There's just too much there for these guys. And don't get me wrong, there are a couple things I'm interested to see how the offensive line can continue to protect him. Duvernay Tardif, I was one of the COVID opt-outs there, the doctor they have playing right guard for them. But I would say the Chiefs on that side. And I mean, on the NFC side, it's so tough because I've been burned by the Saints so many times in the last few years, and
you can't pick them in the playoffs, man.
And you know what? It's right to look at Drew Brees and say, can his arm hold up as we get later into the season, into the postseason, and some of those key spots? I'm hopeful that Emmanuel Sanders and that hole he can fill on third down production in the playoffs is something that can get them to that point, because man, they've been working for it. But I would be, if I had to bet an uncomfortable amount of money right now, just based on all the factors this offseason, that's still probably the group I'm going with. Defensively, 49ers are probably going to regress to the mean some in there, even though they did a good job reloading in the draft with guys. Again, Russell Wilson, you can't count out in that same division. There are other ways that you can look at this, but ultimately, if I had to bet right now, it'd probably be Chiefs Saints.
Well, if the Saints don't free up some cap space, this is the only year that they're going to have a shot for a long while. So hopefully that comes true for them. Mike, thank you so much for coming on. I hope I can talk to you in the future once everything goes kind of back to normal. And thank you for coming on Almost Game Day, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Sean, and I'll absolutely come back on provided enough of my takes prove correct by that time so I can gloat.
I don't think the Super Bowl prediction is right, but, that's fine. You can still come back.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, guys. Thursdays, only on HTFN, we have a brand new show that just aired, HTF Bets, hosted by Okello Pena, Nick Geddes, and Robert Husby. They go into all your betting and fantasy needs. When it comes to betting and fantasy, these guys know what they're talking about. So make sure you tune in on Thursdays, right before Thursday Night Football, to see where to place your bets, who to start and sit in fantasy, and much, much more. Tune in Thursdays, only on HTFN. All right, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Mike Golic Jr. I'm hoping to have many more interviews throughout the year. So that was really cool to have him on right before the NFL season. Now we have a very special guest, probably my first friend at UCF. He thinks he knows a lot about football. Obviously, you're going to see in this segment, probably doesn't. My very favorite Browns fan, Jeffrey Laux. Jeffrey, what's up? How excited are you for football? And did you enjoy the game last night?
Oh, for sure. I mean, everyone was glued to their phones at my house last night. I had a couple of friends over. Everyone was on their phone watching fantasy football. They were and one had their phone playing the game. It was awesome. It was awesome to see Patrick Mahomes back in business, And it's kind of looking like the same old Houston Texans, huh? Bill O'Brien's kind of – you kind of see the flaws that he created this season.
I said it in my I said it in my first segment. I said – pretty much, the defense didn't play as bad. Like, the defense actually played pretty well for the Texans, but I said, the offense, it shows that they don't have DeAndre Hopkins. But
Oh, yeah, for sure.
yeah. All right, let's move away from Thursday Night Football. We have, so many games on Sunday. It's not even funny. So I think it's only fair and it's only right to give my NFL playoff predictions, my seeding predictions, my division predictions. And I know you've done similar to that. So you're pretty much just going to tell me where I'm wrong and what you think, okay? So we're going to start with the AFC East. You see it on the screen. Boom. I've got the Patriots at 11-5. Listen, I don't know how Cam's going to play yet. This could obviously change. I'm assuming Cam Newton is going to be playing at an MVP level. So I have the Patriots going 11-5. That is very gracious for the Patriots, okay? I got the Bills 10-6. The Bills are a really good team. They're one problem, quarterback. I don't think Josh Allen can carry a team like Cam Newton can if healthy. So I got the Bills going 10-6. The Dolphins get significantly better. I think they go 7-9. Listen, Brian Flores is doing something with that team that a lot of teams aren't. They look like they're a gritty team, and they look like they want to actually play for their coach. So I think, yes, even though those free agent acquisitions won't do much this year, hopefully if Tua, this is dependent on Tua Tagovailoa staying healthy. But I do have the Dolphins going 7-9. And then the Jets, it's a crapshoot. I got them going 3-13. Nothing good about the Jets. No receiving core. Don't like their quarterback. The Jets are just a wash, and hopefully they can get a quarterback in next year's draft because I don't believe in Sam Darnold. What is your take on that? Who do you think wins the division for the AFC East?
So I'm gonna go opposite for the number one. I'm gonna have to go Buffalo Bills at 10-6. I truly believe that Sean McDermott will prevail past the Patriots. And there's nothing against the Patriots. I just feel like losing Tom Brady, it kind of lost their identity for a minute, and we really have to see what Cam Newton can do to really predict how far they will really make it. I don't know if Cam Newton's gonna do flawless work in the system, but you never know. I mean, Bill Belichick has pulled things out of his butt every time, every season. Anytime there's an injury, he'll pull a player off the public's practice squad and he'll get them on the roster. He'll get them working. I mean, dude, he'll go to a local YMCA and pick up a good player, and he scouts good players.
All right, AFC North, Ravens 13-3. Okay, I don't really need to explain much. Okay, they're a really good team. That's that. Okay, Steelers, I think they get better. Listen, that defense is scary. They get Big Ben back. Obviously, the offense for me is still a problem. I don't really see studs on that offense. Juju Smith-Schuster took a decline last year. Granted, he had quarterbacks like Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. So I'm not really hating him on this, but if he doesn't have a productive year this year, the Steelers are going to struggle. Then, Browns. I got the Browns third going 8-8. Listen, I like Kevin Stefanski. I think he's a good option. Here's the problem. He's a first-year head coach. I think that whole team is lackluster and crazy. They don't know what their identity is. I think once they form an identity, they'll be a team to get messed around with. But right now, I have them going 8-8. And then the Bengals, again, 3-13. Joe Burrow, first-year quarterback. It's going to be rough. So those are my AFC North predictions. All right, let's go to the AFC South. Number one, I got the Colts, 10-6. Listen, that division is kind of stacked up front. You got Indianapolis, you got Houston, you got Tennessee, then you have the Jaguars. I do think Colts and Titans actually tie here. I think they both go 10-6. I think Colts get the tiebreaker to end up getting into the first four spots of that playoffs. Then I have the Titans at 10-6. Listen, problem there. Again, quarterback, Ryan Tannehill. Do I think he can carry that team when Derrick Henry isn't running as well? My answer, no. So I got the Titans going second. Third, I think you saw it last night, the Texans. I got them going 9-7. That offense is just not enough for a quarterback like Deshaun Watson. Though great, when your guy Brandon Cooks goes 2 for 20, when Will Fuller, even though he goes 8 for 112, it's like a quiet 8 for 112. And then Kenny Stills, non-existent. So I have them going 9-7. And then Jaguars, I said 2-14. That was me being generous. If I really wanted to put a number, I'd probably say like 1-15 or 0-16. They look like what was the year that you guys went 0 for 16?
2017.
Yeah, so that looks like this team. So that's who I think. I think you had similar. I think you had the Colts in first in the AFC South, correct?
Yes, sir. I did have the Colts. I'm a true believer of Phillip Rivers, and especially with T.Y. Hilton healthy again. I mean, he's going to be better than what Keenan Allen and the Williams were for Phillip, in my opinion.
All right, let's move to the AFC West. Again, Chiefs 14-2. We don't need to talk about it. We don't need to say how great they are. We don't need to boost their ego like every other sports talk show. They're a good team. Move on. 14-2. Second,
Okay.
In my opinion, Raiders 10-6. I think John Gruden's getting this team together. I think he's getting them to be a hard-nosed football team. They get a new stadium. They're in Vegas. I think they're ready to take that next leap. They've got enough talented skill players. Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs. Hopefully Derek Carr can be a good quarterback. I think he can be. He showed flashes last year. Plus, that defense is serious. I don't care what anybody says. They look like they're a hard-nosed football team. They need a couple pieces, especially on the D-line. But listen, I think they are right where they need to be. Chargers, 9-7. Reason I put them third is they're starting the season with Tyrod Taylor. If they were starting with Justin Herbert, it'd be a totally different story. But I'm saying Chargers 9-7. I think they're going to be much better at the back half of the year. And then Broncos, I actually loved the Broncos until Von Miller went down. Now, no faith in them. That defense cannot sustain a good pass rush without him. Bradley Chubb can't do it on his own. So those are my AFC West predictions. All right, so let's make the switch. Boom, AFC Playoff Bracket. This is my big bracket. I spent so much time last night doing this. It's probably wrong, but we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it work. Okay. So number one, I got the Chiefs. Obviously, that now with this new playoff format, they get the first round bye, which I like more football, but the first team only getting the bye, whatever. Two, I got the Ravens. Again, it's whatever. Three, I have the Patriots at 11-5. Four, you saw I have the Colts at 10-6. Those are the four division winners. Now, if many of you don't know, we have a new playoff format in the NFL this year where we have an extra wild card team make the playoffs. So that means there's going to be 3 wild card games on wild card weekend instead of 2 from each conference. So at 5, I have the Steelers. At 6, I have the Titans. And then 7, just making it in by the smidge of their hair, I have the Buffalo Bills. So in my wild card matchup, as you see, I have the Ravens versus Bills. I do think the Ravens ultimately win that game. The Bills, again, they're just not talented enough to get over a team like that. So I have the Ravens. Pats versus Titans. Listen, Tom Brady's not on the team anymore. Different quarterback, different situation. Though the Titans are good, I think Bill's not going to make the same mistake of letting Derrick Henry run all over them. So I do think the Pats will ultimately win that game. Then Colts versus Steelers. Though I like the Colts, don't get me wrong. I'm going to pick the Steelers. I think that defense is serious. Phillip Rivers usually doesn't handle good defenses like that. So I'm going Steelers. Chiefs versus Steelers. I'm going Chiefs. Listen, dude, guys, I don't want to. I don't want to pick the Chiefs. But if I'm wrong, then everybody's going to, Sean, you just didn't pick the Chiefs. I don't want to pick the Chiefs. I'm just being honest, but I have to. It's for my own sanity. If they lose, more than okay. I'm going Chiefs. Pats, Ravens. I'm going Patriots. Listen here, okay? Listen. For all you Raven Lamar Jackson fanboys, okay? Watch the game last year. The Ravens didn't blow the Patriots out. If anything, the Patriots kind of figured out what the Ravens were doing. They were running up a hurry-up offense. The Ravens' defense was getting very tired. They don't have Earl Thomas anymore. And listen, the Patriots have Cam Newton. That's a very similar quarterback to Lamar Jackson. So, with that being said, I do think the Pats ultimately, if they get there, beat the Ravens. And go to the AFC Championship. Now, in the AFC Championship, let me explain. Okay, I've got the Chiefs versus Pats. Let me say this. I promise, the team I picked today is so dependent on many other things. I am picking the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl, but, and I need you guys to clip this but. If Cam Newton is healthy, and Cam Newton is playing at his MVP level, The Patriots will go to the Super Bowl this year. I promise that is my take. I am picking the Chiefs right now. We all watch Thursday Night Football. We all watch that. But as of right now, I am picking the Kansas City Chiefs. But if Cam Newton is healthy, the Patriots will go to the Super Bowl. Okay, so those are my playoff predictions. Jeff, they're pretty good, correct?
They're decent. They're decent from my point of view for sure. But I can see your reasoning. Especially for the Patriots. But up to the, we'll talk about it. Obviously, number one, I'm gonna have Kansas City. No doubt, they're gonna be the best team.
Yeah, just get
get away from Kansas City.
Yeah.
Number two, obviously, we're going to go to Baltimore. Baltimore is going to beat the rest of the division. At least one of the games. Baltimore, we're going to move past. Number three, I have Indianapolis. The Phillip Rivers train is coming, and it's going to happen in Indianapolis. And that defense, Darius Leonard, all them boys, they're really going to tear it up, and it's going to shock the NFL, like what they've been really building over this time. You're going to see Zach Pascal turn up probably. He's a second-year player of Old Dominion. He was fantastic last year as a rookie. I mean, he's going to be great this year. Number four, I do have Buffalo. And, rather than Patriots winning the AFC East, I have Buffalo just because Josh Allen, and you saw that in the Thanksgiving game against Dallas. He really put up and shut them up for a good minute, especially Devin Singletary being such a bright young spark in that offense, and they added what was it, Zach Taylor, another rookie running back. It's gonna be really, really nice to see that young team take off though. Number five, I have the boys in the back, Cleveland. I do think the paper will show that there's going to be improvement this year with the Browns. Odell Beckham, even though he likes being pooped on, I think that he'll like pooping on opponents even more. And I honestly do think Baker takes that next step, just like he did in his rookie season. Shut out, did everything great, and then came in the second season, had a terrible year. But now I think he really puts it all together with Kevin Stefanski. Number six, I have Mr. Tennessee Titans, Derrick Henry, run the ball up your face, Ryan Tannehill boys. They are definitely going to make a statement once again, whether it'll be beating just a lower seed team than them. I just think they're out there to make a statement every time they play. And number seven, I have Denver sneaking in. Even though my projections don't have them in there, I think they have the potential, especially with Jerry Jeudy, Drew Lock. Von Miller going out hurts, and I thought about it, but their defense.
You're done.
I'm done. Yeah. No. I could be done at the same time. Von Miller doesn't make the whole team great. He makes them a level above great, but
that's Tom Brady for the Patriots after 20 years.
It's like the lead singer of the band, being injured, but the other members can still partake in making the team defense great.
He's still the lead singer.
He's still the lead singer. Yes. But he could still.
It's kind of like Queen. You take Freddie Mercury away, they're still Queen, but they're not the same Queen.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So quickly, who do you think ends up going to the Super Bowl?
Super Bowl. So I have the Kansas City Chiefs and the Patriots.
Okay, great. Let's move on.
Not Patriots.
I'm sorry.
The Buccaneers.
Listen, guys.
The Tampa Bay Patriots. I'm so sorry. I did not mean to say just.
That's
Patriots.
the NFC, Jeff. We're not even there yet. We're not even there yet, Jeff. Listen, I'm sorry. I wish I could have gave you guys a better AFC prediction. The only thing I could do is say if Cam Newton's healthy, the Patriots will make it. I can't. The Kansas City Chiefs are just too good right now. I hate it, but it's true. I can't pick against them. All right, let's move on to the NFC. All right, we're going to the NFC. This is fun. This is interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with the NFC East. All right, we got the Cowboys for me at 11-5. Listen, I look at the Cowboys and everybody's like Super Bowl bound. I don't see that yet. We need to see how that offense works. We need to see how great CeeDee Lamb is. But I will admit that defense is really, really good. It's stellar, and you got Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield. So I do have them going 11-5. I have the Eagles going 10-6. I don't know why. Nothing on that team shoots out on the paper for me. I'm just thinking Carson Wentz might stay healthy and might give the Cowboys a run. So I have the Eagles going 10-6. Giants 8-8. Listen, do not underestimate Joe Judge. Joe Judge is a great coach. He gets guys that want to play for him. That's the reason New England's special teams were good for so many years. I do think Joe Judge turns that team around. I think Daniel Jones becomes a good quarterback. But again, you're in a division with the Cowboys and Eagles, so I'm going to go 8-8. Then the Redskins, again, another team that I think could go 0-16. I'm going 2-14. That's my low ball. Like, that's my, 2-14 is like my you're probably going to have a potential to lose every game. I don't care that Riverboat Ron's there.
Oh.
They have no talent on the wide receiver core at all. Do you...
Well,
Terry McLaurin. Okay, listen, Terry McLaurin is only one guy. One guy.
I mean, they do have Mr. Trey in there. Mr. Trey Quinn. Trey Quinn is also a decent player. Paul Richardson, if I do still think he's still there. I mean,
if Alex Smith isn't the quarterback, I don't want it. That's what I'll say. I'm going to the NFC North. Now, a lot of people, wait until I get to my playoff predictions. I've got a surprising pick. I want to juice this show up, okay? So I have the Packers going 12-4. Listen, okay, I don't understand why nobody's talking about the Packers. Everybody is talking about Tampa Bay. They're talking about New Orleans. The Packers are a serious team now. So right now I have them going 12-4. They have the same defense, pretty much the same offense. I do have them winning that division. Vikings, I got 10-6. Listen, no hate against the Vikings. They're, again, just an average team that can really play good on defense. I love all of the Kirk Cousin lovers. Okello Pena, I'm talking to you. But no, the Vikings are a average team. Kirk Cousins is an average quarterback. If Dalvin Cook can stay healthy, they get to 10-6. If Dalvin Cook goes out, they go to 8-8. It's that simple. Losing Stephon Diggs, that's a big no-no. Now they got Justin Jefferson, but again, it's a rookie. You can only rely on a rookie so much. So I got 10-6 for them. Bears, I have 8-8. Again, that can go up and down. That's why I put them in the middle. If Mitch Trubisky can play very good, they might pass the Vikings. That defense is really something not to mess with. So I have the Bears going 8-8, and then the Lions, they take a step up. I think they go 6-10. Again, they're another team that could go 8-8 and go higher and lower, depending, but I have them going 6-10. NFC South. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. All right. NFC South, Saints, 12-4. Again, the Saints are a regular season powerhouse. They could even go 13-3, but again, adding a team like the Bucs in that division will lower that loss total because I think they'll lose to the Bucs at least once. Now, you'll see in my next segment if I think they'll lose tomorrow night, so stay tuned for that. Or on Sunday. But I have the Saints going 12-4. They're a good regular season team. They have pretty much the same team. They're not going to be good for years after this because of their cap space. They can't re-sign all these people. So I have the Saints going 12-4. Bucks, 11-5. They're not winning the division. For all you Bucks lovers that all of a sudden are Tom Brady fans, I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. The Bucks are 11-5. They might make the playoffs. You'll see in about a couple minutes. But right now, I'm saying they're second in the division at 11-5. I don't need to discuss why. Falcons, 8-8. Again, everybody's so in love with the Falcons every year. And I am too. I love the Falcons so much. But then I bet on them and they screw me over because they're an average team. Matt Ryan, just 1 week he's amazing. Next week he's not that good. So, again, just like I put for the Bears. I'm putting them at 8-8. They can go higher, they can go lower. But that's where I'm putting them now. The Panthers, so originally I had them very low. I raised their games up. I had them going, right now I have them going 7-9. Obviously, that can't really work with me putting the Falcons at 8-8. I had the Panthers originally going 4-12. But I thought if Teddy Bridgewater stays healthy and Teddy Bridgewater plays really well, then that's a good team. They have Christian McCaffrey. He'll win some games for them. So I have them going 7-9 right now, but it would not shock me. I have no idea how Matt Rule's going to do. Like, he kind of doesn't really excite me that much. So I'm going Panthers 7-9. But again, my second option's 4-12. It's either going to be one or the other. All right, Jeff, do you agree? Saints over the Bucks? Is that what's going to happen?
No way.
Oh my God, you believe the hype?
I ate the hype right up. I mean, look at the team, man. Rob Gronkowski, OJ Howard, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Tom Goats Brady. I mean, Ali Marpet on their left guard. They're stacked on offense. They're pretty well led on defense with Shaquille Barrett taking the reins right now, man. You know, and they have the second year middle linebacker and
Devin White. Yeah,
Devin White. Dude, they're gonna be nice. I have them going 13-3, and then number 2 I have the Saints going. I have them going 2-4, and I think they'll be right below them. And then I think there's gonna be a pretty big drop off when it's gonna be 7-9 with Atlanta Falcons, just because I have faith in Dan Quinn, and I have faith in Matt Ryan. But at the end of the day, I think they still have a decent amount of flaws in their defense that will keep them back in that division. And the Panthers, I mean, they replaced Cam Newton with a really good replacement, Teddy Bridgewater. And I'd be optimistic about Matt Rule, especially coming from, the NCAA. He had a pretty good, run there. And now with them losing pretty much everyone alongside Greg Olsen, Luke Kuechly, all these boys, all the identity that they had, and going to a new identity, I think they're going to rebuild and have an okay season for sure.
NFC West. All right. Again, last division. Here we go. Seahawks 12-4. I love the Seahawks. I think they are a stellar team. They're perfectly coached by Pete Carroll. That offense is actually one of the best offenses I've seen in a while, especially from the Seahawks. Usually when you're talking about the Seahawks, you're not talking about offense, you're talking about their defense. And I think it's the complete opposite. I love how they have an identity of being a complete team. So right now, I have them going 12-4 as the first in the division. Now, I have the 49ers going 11-5. I love the 49ers. I love a lot of the teams in this division, but I don't think they overtake the Seahawks. After watching those games last year against the two teams, it looks like the Seahawks had way more heart in those games and wanted it a lot more. And the 49ers lost a couple people on that defensive line. That's a problem. They don't have everybody returning. Plus, on that offensive side, you lose Emmanuel Sanders, right? You're replacing it with some rookie wide receivers. They're trying to do the Kansas City effect in drafting those young, fast wide receivers and trying to replicate that. Unfortunately, no offense, Jimmy Garoppolo is not Patrick Mahomes. He can't throw the throws that Patrick Mahomes does. So when Brandon Ayuk is run down the field, if Jimmy G can make the throws, but again, Jimmy Garoppolo reminds me a lot of Tom Brady. There's a reason New England drafted him. So I do have them going 11-5. The Cardinals, Mike Golic Jr. said it in his interview. This team is scary good. If there's a possibility they can be the second or first place team in this division. Now, granted, the 49ers and Seahawks they're just more talented right now. But I could easily see the Cardinals overtaking that second spot. They're just that good. That defense, scary. That offense, scarier. DeAndre Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald, Kyler Murray. The Cardinals are poised to be a powerhouse in this league. And if it's not this year, it's next year, because that's a scary team. And then the Rams, it brings me great joy to say I think they'll go 7-9. Probably less than that. The division is just too good. This is what happens when you spend too much. Go back to my old podcast, The Green Light. I said it. You're spending too much money. It's going to screw you in the long run. And guess what? We're at that point. Look at that offense. You had to draft running backs to fill your running back role because your MVP-type running back wasn't good anymore. You paid him too much, and you had to trade him. Brandon Cooks, paid him, had to trade him. God, go down the list. Now you have to pay Cooper Kupp, guy that really injures himself a lot. Almost every year he injures himself. You're going to give him a bunch of money. I'm sorry. You're not good. You're not that good of a team anymore. You're good. Your coach is really good, but the talent does not exceed your record. It's not going to exceed it. So I'm going 7-9. All right. We're going to go to my playoff bracket. Finally, we're here. Number 1, I have the Saints. Obviously, they have the best or one of the best records. Number 2, I have the Packers. Okay. Number 3, Seahawks. 4, Cowboys. You're seeing it on the screen. 4, Cowboys. 5, 49ers. I think they make it in. 6, I have the Bucks. Obviously, they make it in. And then the last and final team is the Vikings. I do think the Vikings squeak into the playoffs. So, first wild card matchup, you have Packers-Vikings. I do have the Packers winning that. I just think the Packers are a better overall team than the Vikings. It usually is that every single year for the last, I don't know, however long Aaron Rodgers has been there. That's been the case. So, I'm going Packers. Seahawks, Bucks. Listen, for all the Seahawks fans, I'm sorry. Again, I did say I like you. I'm going to pick the Bucks to win a playoff game. I do think they will beat the Seahawks in the wild card round. It's nothing against the Seahawks. I just think there is too much talent on the Bucks. And at this point in the year, Tom Brady's figured everything out. They figured out what their team identity is. That's why I don't think they'll, or you'll see what I say about them in the next segment. But this early part of the year for the Bucks is going to be weird territory. They have to figure out how to play together first. I think at this point, they'll figure it out, and I think they do beat the Seahawks. Cowboys, 49ers. I'm sorry, Cowboys fans. The 49ers will win. The Super Bowl's not happening this year. Pay Dak, and then we'll talk, okay? Saints versus Bucks. Now I'm saying sorry, Bucks fans. The Saints will beat you in the divisional round. It's not even a question. Listen, the Saints will beat, the Saints are a better team. The Saints are the better team. I get the Bucks have more talent, but the Saints want it more. Just you wait. The Saints will beat the Bucks in the divisional. Tom Brady will go home and cry. Okay. Packers versus, listen, Jeffrey. Packers versus 49ers. I do have the Packers winning. I think the Packers beat the 49ers. Again, Aaron Rodgers looks like he's a scary man. And I'll go quick. I need to explain my picks. Saints versus Packers. Yeah, Saints versus Packers. Saints versus Packers in the NFC Championship. I've got the Packers. I have the Packers going to the Super Bowl. Listen here, folks. Listen to me closely, okay? Back in, 2014. Was it 2014? 2014. Patriots drafted Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Tom Brady goes, he's PO'd, he's upset. He goes and takes them on a Super Bowl run, brings them all the way to Super Bowl and wins the dang thing. Then he goes to 2016. Jimmy Garoppolo's still there, wins another Super Bowl. In 2015, he went to the AFC Championship and lost to the Denver Broncos. I think Aaron Rodgers, he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He said he doesn't know if he's going to be a Packer. He thinks he's probably not going to be a Packer forever. Like, he thinks he's going to go to another team because of this. I think Aaron Rodgers is PO'd, and I think that's going to take him all the way to the Super Bowl. And then, for my Super Bowl, so it's Packers versus Chiefs. Listen, guys, I'm going all in on the Packers. The Packers. Packers. Green Bay Packers. John Whitley, you're freaking welcome, man. You owe me a bunch of money for picking the Packers. I am going all in on the Packers. Packers versus Chiefs, I'm going Packers. If New England gets in with Cam Newton, I'm going New England. But for right now, my Super Bowl prediction, Packers, Chiefs, I'm going the Packers. Aaron Rodgers MVP, that's my pick. Jeff, you agree?
I don't agree. You just kind of dropped the bomb on me, and I'm kind of still picking up the pieces. So
Packers.
I don't think the Packers make that far.
Packers.
So the way I have the seeding is I do think Seattle is going to be number one. Tampa's going to be number two. I think Tampa is going to beat the Saints overall in the division this season. I think the Saints will take one game from them, but I think Tampa Bay Bucks will take the best of them. Number three, I have Philly. Number four, I have Green Bay. Number five, I have New Orleans. Number six, I have Detroit. And number seven, I have Dallas. Green Bay, I just can't see them make it past the NFC Championship game just because it's nothing with Aaron Rodgers and what you made, the point that you made with Jimmy Garoppolo coming in and now the same thing with them drafting a quarterback. I don't think it really pushes him forward. I think it pushes him away instead of pushes him forward.
Jeff, haven't you hurt his arm? This is the first time his arm hasn't hurt in 10 years. I'm taking that. I'm taking that.
But the media also said the Browns looked to make a great playoff run in 2019. Odell Beckham. I mean, we believed that, didn't we? I mean, we can't believe what the media says. And I think they will push Rodgers away. I think this will end up being his last season in a Packers uniform, just like it was for Tom Brady. I don't think Aaron Rodgers comes close to a Tom Brady as you kind of compare that to Garoppolo, Tom Brady situation. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is playing at that point in his career that where Brady was playing at that moment when Garoppolo came. I know it kind of lit a fire under his butt, but I don't think it's gonna do the same thing for Aaron Rodgers. I see the NFC Championship game, overall ending up as the Seahawks and Buccaneers as the number 1 and number 2, and I have the Buccaneers winning and going to the championship game, and I fell into the hype.
You did. You fell into it.
But why shouldn't you fall into the hype?
You haven't seen him play one game, Jeff.
They have made so much positive progression over this one season. It changed the whole franchise around. Anyways, Jameis Winston was their quarterback last season. Now it's Tom Brady. That's a whole change of a team right there. You have a guy that's willingly just throwing it with his great arm power, not making the best decisions. Now you have a game manager, great game player, is overall franchise-chasing player in Tom Brady coming in there with a great coach in Bruce Arians. I don't see why they shouldn't go to the Super Bowl and nonetheless win the whole thing. I don't think they'll win the whole thing because I have the Chiefs winning overall. But why shouldn't the Bucs be in the Super Bowl game? Tell me why they shouldn't be.
Number one, what an exciting pick. The Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. Wow, so exciting.
So exciting.
I haven't heard that out of every single analyst on the face of the planet. Here's what we'll finish off with you, Jeff. I'll explain really quickly why the Bucs will not make the Super Bowl. And it's very simple. You get a super team together. It's like a not talked about rule since the beginning of time. You get a super team together, which, let's be real, folks, the Bucs are a super team. They've taken all of the best players, they put them on one team. By the way, they're the New England Bucs, Tampa Bay Patriots, whatever you want to call them. That's what they're doing, right? You got Gronk, you got Brady, you're getting Leonard Fournette, which is a move the Patriots would totally do if they had Brady. Listen, no hate against Bucs. Listen, I'm excited to watch. I am excited to watch them play. But again, when you get a super team together, it takes time. It's not a flip of a switch. Teams like the Seahawks, teams like the Saints, they've had the same team together for years. They gel together well. They know what they're supposed to do. The Bucs, it's going to take them 6 to 8 weeks to really gel. If they honestly come out on this field Sunday and blow the Saints away, then yes, I'm able to change my prediction. But I don't think the Bucs are going to really get settled for half a season. And then you look at it, if the Bucs make the Super Bowl, they will win because they're at home. They don't have to travel. They don't need to do anything. The Bucs, if they get there, they will win it. I just don't think this is the year. Possibly next year when Brady's 42 or 43. Possibly next year. But it's not going to be this year.
Who has the best defense in that division, though? Who can compete with Tampa Bay's defense right now with the potential of that defense? That defense is fuming with potential. They have a lot of young talent on that defense. Who competes with them? I know. Definitely the Falcons don't.
Jeff, there's so many questions, and guess what? They will get answered starting Sunday with the new NFL season coming to us. So stay tuned for my next segment. I go into my 7 picks, my touchdown picks, if you will. Jeff, I need to have you on again, bro, so we can go through these picks again. I'm really excited. So I hope you come on and join me soon.
Oh, for sure. We'll talk about the Bucs for sure.
All right. Thank you guys for coming back to Almost Game Day. This is my final segment. I want to thank Jeff for coming on and listening through my predictions. I hope they were useful. I hope you guys don't think I'm stupid. I think I'm not stupid. I think there's some really good picks. So now we're going to go into my 7 picks of the week, my touchdown of the week, if you will. I've got 7 picks from the NFL games on Sunday that I think you should either make a bet on or you could just look at it and see if I'm right for your amusement. Whatever you feel is best. So let's get into the first game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you who I think will win and if I think they will cover or who I think will cover that spread. So let's go into the first game, Dolphins versus Patriots. Listen, I love the Dolphins and what they've done. There's no question that they are on the right track. You saw that in my rankings. I said they're going to really increase their win total. I like the Dolphins. But I said it last week. Cam Newton is the quarterback. If Cam Newton's healthy, he is a MVP type quarterback. And there's no question, Brian Flores, when we play Cam, he was not good as a de facto defensive coordinator at stopping Cam from running and passing the ball. So, in my opinion, I believe that the Patriots will win and cover the 6.5. So if you're going to go bet, I'd say take the 6.5. I think that's a very generous take. Again, I think a lot of people are assuming, oh, you get Kyle Van Noy, you get a Landon Roberts. It's the Miami Patriots. They're going to be good. Just because you get a lot of Patriots players doesn't mean you become the Patriots. Again, take that from Detroit. So I'm going to say Patriots win, and they cover the 6.5. Seahawks versus Falcons, another 1 p.m. game. See, I'm going to take the Seahawks to win and cover. I think 2.5 is very generous against the Falcons. The Falcons, again, are a not consistent team. Everybody's like, oh, I think the Falcons are going to be good this year. They have the same team. It almost seems like they've had the same team for 5 years, and they're the same exact team. They had the one Super Bowl year, but then you have the just straight line. Don't go up, don't go too high. So I say pound the Falcons here, -2.5. I think they do win, and I think they cover. So let's just move on. That's a very simple pick. I don't think that's anything different. All right, Bears-Lions. The last week, I've heard so many people say how much they love the Lions. I'm like, okay, I do agree. I think they're a much better team, but I don't think they're that better. Now, listen, okay, I know Mitchell Trubisky's the quarterback, but, I'm going to believe in him for week 1. I'm going to say I'm going to take the Bears to win and take the 3 points. They're +3. I'm taking the Bears to win and +3. Listen, Matthew Stafford as a quarterback is a great quarterback, but that Bears defense is serious, okay? I truly believe the Bears will come out on top here, but listen, if Mitchell Trubisky starts playing bad, then I won't take the Bears ever because I can't take the Bears when he's a quarterback. Now, if Nick Foles comes in, possibly. But, yeah, right now, I'm taking the Bears and the points. That's a good one to bet on, the +3. That's a good one. Okay. Now, a lot of people are probably going to berate me of this pick. I'm okay. Ravens, Browns. Listen, I think all of us know that the Ravens will win this game. If they lose, good on Kevin Stefanski, good on Baker, good on Odell. I do think the Ravens win. I don't think they cover the points. So if you're betting on the winner, take the Ravens. The Ravens are going to win this game. But if you're betting on the spread, I would take the Browns at +7.5. Okay? Listen, it's not rocket science. If you look at the games from last year, right, they were 2 blowout games. You had the Browns, I think, win 40-25 early in the season, and then the Ravens won 31-15 later on in the year. That's a reason to say, okay, I will take the Ravens at -7.5. I don't think so. Listen, the Browns got better, okay? They added a bunch of new pieces. They got a new coach that's offensive-minded. Not Freddie Kitchens offensive-minded, actually an offensive coordinator that did something offensive-minded, okay? So, I do think the Cleveland Browns will make a run at it against the Ravens. They defended Lamar Jackson pretty well every time they played him. So, I do think they lose, ultimately, but I would take the +7.5 for the Browns, but the Ravens, I do think, will win this game. Okay. Saints, Bucks. Everybody's excited to see this game. I'm going to be honest. What is the thing with every super team that you get in the very first time they play? It's a new team. New rust. Trying to figure each other out. We don't know if Mike Evans is going to play. That's just a question that we have no idea. It's a game time decision. So, as of right now, I'm taking the Saints plus them to cover. So, Saints at -3.5. I think they're going to cover that, and I think they'll win. There's no question the Bucs are going to be good. They have too much talent not to. But we have to look at this from a logical standpoint here. The Saints have been the same team for years. They have the same pieces. They've worked well together, except for when they get to the playoffs. But the Bucs are a new team. Tom Brady's his first time in a Buc uniform, away game at the Saints, not even at home. So, I'm taking the Saints, but don't go crazy. The Bucs will be fine. Okay. Cardinals versus 49ers. Listen, just like Mike Golic said, the Cardinals are a scary team, especially on offense. Now, that 49ers defense is serious, like always, But they lost a couple pieces on defense. They're still trying to find their way. And don't sleep on the Cardinals' defense. They have Chandler Jones on that end, and he's always been serious. So, who's my pick? Well, you see it. I'm picking the 49ers to win. The 49ers are too good to lose in the first game, especially to the Cardinals. But I would take Cardinals +7. I do think it's going to be a close game, closer than many people think. If you look at the games from last year, they were both close. The second one, they scored a touchdown in the final seconds, the 49ers did, to increase the lead to 10, I think. I think the game was 35-25 or something. But that game was close the entire time. The Cardinals are a tough team, and the 49ers usually can't handle that well. So I'm going to go with the 49ers to win, but Cardinals to cover that +7. All right. Then, Cowboys, Rams. I'm sorry, I've never trusted the Rams. I'm going Cowboys -3 and to win. The Cowboys are good. Now, I don't get the whole Super Bowl stuff with them yet. Their offense is better, getting CeeDee Lamb. Their defense is good as ever. But I just don't see the Super Bowl thing for the Cowboys yet. We're week 1. We'll get there. But the Rams, I just don't feel like are a great team. That offense isn't as talented as it was. The only talent I see on that offense is, lack of a better term, Cooper Kupp. I don't think Jared Goff is a top 10 quarterback. I think he's average. And that's that. The defense obviously has 2 studs in Ndamukong Suh and Jalen Ramsey. But the Rams are not the team they were. And we explained that years ago. When you spend a bunch of cap space, you lose a bunch of guys in the future because you can't afford all of them. And that's what the Rams did. So, the Cowboys aren't in that position right now. They've got a bunch of young people and a bunch of talent. So, I think the Cowboys go in there, win the game, and they cover the -3. So, those are my picks. So, technically, you get 14 picks. So, if you're actually going to bet, you're getting 14 picks from me. And then we'll keep a tally. Let's be real. Last week, my NBA picks were trash. But Knicks were too. And Knicks like one of the smartest people I know. He was 1-3. So yeah, I was 0-4. But hey, I know my football. I know my football. Trust me on these picks. We will keep this tally. I promise you we will keep this tally throughout the season. So that's 14 picks right there. It's 2 picks for each game. So you're welcome. Okay. That is Almost Game Day this week. Guys, I'm so excited for football on Sunday. I'm so excited. I literally can't even talk straight. You saw that because I'm so excited for football. All right. Follow me on Twitter at SeanMRGreen. Please DM me. I want to get you on this show. I want to talk to you. I want you to tell me my takes are stupid so I can debate you. Then follow at Hitting the Field on all social platforms. Twitter, Instagram. Maybe we're on Facebook. I think we're probably on Facebook. So check us out. And then subscribe down here. What are you guys doing? Like, we're putting out content every day. It gets frustrating. Like, there's just so much. I can barely keep up. It can be scary. So, please follow us, subscribe, like, comment, share, do all that stuff. I don't even know what you do. Just do it. All right. This has been Almost Game Day. And it's Almost Game Day. I'll see you next week and enjoy the games.